So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to bear with me. I very rarely do things verbatim from published articles, but in this case, I want to because I want to talk about the 1977 Team Canada World Championship squad. Now, we all remember 77 as a return for Team Canada to the World Championships after many years out. We had the very ridiculous Team Canada multicolored jerseys that year, which Phil Esposito called like someone throwing up in a garbage can. Now, a very interesting writer from the Globe and Mail, Tim Warnesby, did a not say an anniversary article, but a very important recount article in their April 27th, 2005 edition. Now, the title of the article is called "The Year Canada Was Thrown to the Wolves," and I think it ranks as probably one of the best recounting of what was going on in 1977 because these games were broadcast by CTV. CBC didn't want to touch it, and like 72, the visuals were choppy. There was a lot of players that we know didn't deserve to be there, and basically when the headline said "thrown to the wolves," it talks about it. Now, according to Warren Sweeney's article, he talks about like when Tony Esposito and Jim Rutherford were interviewed about the series and the jerseys. We found out that Phil Esposito would rather forget he wore that sweater. Now, Rutherford, Esposito, and his brother Phil were part of three former part of an NHL team, full NHL team, first time after an 8-year hiatus for Team Canada at the World Championships. In '69 was the Father Bauer program, but because of not being allowed to use pros, and Avery Brundage and the Olympic program threatened to boycott if we did use our own pros, it became an impasse, and we dropped out of the Olympics up until 1980. Now, according to Esposito, and that's where the headline comes from, "The truest to the wolves," he said in the article, "we should have never been there. We had to go back to the World Championships because we had a successful Canada Cup in '76, of which Esposito played for. If we wanted another one, we had to start playing at the World Championships. Somebody was making money off of it, not us." Now, after finishing fourth in '69, Hockey Canada decided to boycott the World Championships in the Winter Olympics because the IAAHF rule prohibited professionals from competing in these international events. Now, the rules were slackened after the success of the Canada Cup in '76, and it was a financial windfall to the IAAHF. I hear millions of dollars, and if this was in 2020, it could be in hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, according to Phil, I didn't like the experience at all in '77. They told me I wouldn't have to wear a helmet, and then a minute before the first game, they told me to put one on. And we do remember the CTV tapes where Esposito basically, with a helmet on, it's like taking a line and putting a muzzle on him. He was looking to kill, and the ire of '72 was really shown in '77, especially when they shellacked us 11-1 and 8-1 in preliminary and a medal play. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, he said, "I was so mad after the last game," Esposito said. "I fired my helmet at IAAHF President Gunter Sabetsky in the stands. He was so stupid that he came down after the game to thank me and get an autograph. I basically told him to buzz off." Now, Canada finished fourth in '77, despite some ugly on-ice incidents. He said, "We took numerous stupid penalties in that tournament that cost us," Tony Esposito said. And according to the writer, it's an understatement. The Canadian team was dubbed Team Ugly or Team Zoo for 3 embarrassing incidents. The ever unpopular Wolf Paymont was suspended for clubbing a Russian player over the head with his stick. Longtime Bruin and California Golden Seal Carol Vadney was accused of butt-heading Kent Eric Anderson of Sweden, and the usually jovial Walt McKechnie reportedly speared an opponent and wouldn't stand attention for the Soviet anthem. Now, the team's actions prompted a government committee to investigate what transpired and make recommendations for the next World Championships. Now, Hockey Canada Executive Director Derek Holmes and Bill Waters, a player's agent at the time, compiled a roster for the '77 tournament. Now, the Canadian team had holdovers from Summit '72 as Phil Ron Ellis came out of retirement, and he had Esposito, the two Espositos. He also had young offensive dynamos and Laurentian Paiement. Now, Vadney and Dallas Smith anchored the blue line, with also veteran goalie Jim Rutherford in goal to back up Esposito. Now, the 18-day event began with a round robin. The top 4 teams then qualified for a round robin final. Now, playing 7 games in 11 days, they opened the round robin with a 4-0 win over U.S. States, but lost 4-2 to Sweden and 11-1 to the Soviets. They then tied Czechoslovakia 3-3 before reeling off victories over lesser opponents Finland, France, and Romania. Now, Sweden and the Soviet Union finished the round robin with 6-1 records, following with Czechoslovakia at 5-1-1 and Canada at 4-2-1. Now, in the 4-team final, they drubbed Sweden 7-0, lost to the Soviets 8-1, and beat Czechoslovakia again 8-2. But the Czechs were awarded the gold medal with an overall record of 7-2-1, followed by Sweden and the Soviets at 7-3. Canada finished 4th at 6-3-1, and the Swedes won the silver because they upset the Soviets, which cost Canada a medal. Now, the 77 team was comprised mostly of players who did not make the playoffs, and they would be later part of a strong Team Canada squads in later years. And there was a lot of talent in 77, in my personal opinion. But I think the big problem was if you would have the heavy hitters later on, there was no way that the Montreal Canadiens and the Bruins and the Flyers were going to send 1 or 2 players. So this is what we had: Guy Charon, Ron Ellis, of course, Espo, Tony as well. Roger Albert had a really good series. Ricky Hampton, an up-and-coming defenseman with Cleveland. Dennis Kearns, a stalwart from the 75 playoff against Montreal. Ralph Klassen, the Barons. Again, the ever-talented Pierre Larouche. Alan McAdam, very underrated forward, who was part of the Minnesota North Stars resurgence in the early 80s. Walt McKechnie, Wayne Merrick, underrated skater. Wolfie Paymont. Jean Parleveau, probably one of the most underrated snipers of the 1970s. Phil Russell, a long-time defenseman with Chicago. Dallas Smith, a stalwart, like I said. Greg Smith of the Barons. Carol Vadney of the Rangers. And, of course, a very underrated forward, Eric Vale. So I think it was a good mix of young and old. But I saw every game from there. But the losses to the Russians twice, 19-2, they're outscored. If you couldn't beat the Russians, weren't going to win the gold medal. If they would have defeated the Russians in one game, they would have got at least a silver. But were the Czechs the best team in the tournament? No, it was kind of a tie between Sweden, Czechoslovakia, and Russia. Because Canada had an opportunity to defeat the Swedes and the Russians, and they failed in 3 of the games. But if you ever have a chance, try to find the tape someplace. You'll be more than happy at what you see, because it's old school hockey. And seeing Espo freak out in the last game, classic. Have a good day. Bye.